cool.
All right. Welcome, Max. Thanks for coming on to Thinking Backwards. I hope you're having a good day, and this is going to be a blast, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Just like to say thanks so much for having me on. Really excited for this.
All right, Max. What the hell is no code? Like, what is it? Everybody's talking about it. It's all over the place. I've seen even some brands like Prada, I think, or one of those fashion brands talking about no code and making shirts with like no code designs on them. You're the guy with no code, 100 days of no code. What is it? What are we talking about
Yeah, very good question. To be honest, um, there is so many ways of expressing what it is. So I have yet to come up with like a super clean. Like every time I say a definition, it's different. But for me, generally it revolves around like the comparison between textual communication with a computer to visual. So normally, like you create software by like communicating with a computer via text. So you're writing code essentially, but with no code, you're doing it visually. So you're actually communicating with software or a laptop, whatever you call it, visually. So you're dragging and dropping things onto a screen that are kind of like pre-built components, or as we probably know it better, like Lego, that you're just sort of dragging and dropping onto a screen and then bringing and configuring together in sort of a useful, functional and usable way for the end user. So I would kind of say that it's basically a way for people to build software, apps, websites without having to write a single line of code. And now code is involved because ultimately all these tools that we're using like Bubble, Zapier, Airtable, they're all built on code. So that's kind of the irony, but it's just sort of removed from our viewpoint, if you like, to the point where we're just actually doing the fun bit, which is dragging and dropping, as I said. So, and that may be simplifying it, but that's generally the best way of looking at it.
Amazing. And why did you like? What did you see in it that made you think, yeah, this is going to be big? I've used a couple of them. I've used Notion mainly, I must say, but I don't think Notion started out as a no-code tool. It was kind of just a tool for you to use that people turned into, a no-code tool for you because you can build up a lot of things on it. Did
Of
other
course.
apps start the same way, like Bubble and all of them, or were they targeted for making life easy for people who want to make apps, websites, all of that?
Yeah, no, good question. Firstly, yeah, I think I've said to you before, but your Notion site is really nice. It's super clean. So if anyone hasn't sort of checked out what like a Notion site can look like, or be like, then check out Jawad's site
Thank
for
you.
thinking backwards because it's brilliant. But yeah, so some tools, and this is really a marketing thing, but some tools expressly were made for the no-code market. They were made to help visual developers create more powerful web applications without having to write any code. And then some tools have kind of like either intentionally or unintentionally jumped on this hype wagon, and have suddenly become no code tools. So we've got things like Typeform that we've probably used for like 5-6 years that suddenly now rebranded to a no code tool, which it is, to be fair, but it's just interesting how the tools have now been kind of reframed. But most of the tools we're seeing now are starting as no code tools because we're in this no code like era, if you like.
Mm.
So it's kind of the thing to do to start as one. But tools that we've come to know over a long period of time have suddenly become no code tools as well. Yeah.
Amazing. When did you get on it? Like, when did you figure out, okay, this is going to be big? I
Mm.
really like working on this, so I'm going to create something out of it, which is the 100 Days of No Code, which is essentially a community now that is doing really good. I see it everywhere. So,
Yeah, sorry for spamming your feed with lots of 100 days retweets and hashtags and all this mad stuff. But I know some people probably have to like put it on yeah, sort of silent or whatever it's called. But yeah, um, in terms of like when the kind of the penny dropped and I was like, oh wow, like this is super cool. Um, I think it was first like my first introduction was reading an article by Ryan Hoover from Product Hunt,
Yeah,
and he just kind of uh, introduced this idea that there's these tools out here that we can start using. And I think this was in May 2018 that actually allow us to like in a admittedly like hacky and lean way
yeah,
create things that would otherwise only have been able to be done by coders. And that was like, oh, like wow, like that's incredible, because at the time when I read that article, which was probably mid 2019 or late 2019, I was really like feeling the effects of not having a technical edge in my skill set. So I'd just come off the back of helping with a startup. There was three of us, and we were all non-technical, and that didn't really
yeah,
bode well for creating at the time an Airbnb for storage thing.
yeah,
And we flopped. It was good fun, but we flopped, and one of the reasons was because we couldn't actually make the thing that we wanted to, bring into the world, and that kind of planted that like seed of damn, like I need a technical edge. So when I
yeah.
read that Ryan Hoover article, I was like, wow, this actually is probably more like realistic for me to get than I ever thought it was. Because the only other route before that point was learning to code.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine the amount of people that have this exact same problem. And at a certain point, I had it, to be honest. And I was like, this is killing me. Everything I need to do on my website or my application or anything, I'm depending on someone else. And, in the initial stages of any startup, a lot of people outsource because you can't afford hiring someone and, paying all the premium stuff for them. So you outsource to another company, and then you're dependent on that company, and it's just a
Like,
horrible loophole.
yeah,
Uh, I definitely see that. And you decided, or not decided, you thought, okay, this is amazing. I need to start working on it. I need to figure what it was. What did you do? What was the like
sure.
thought process there? Because this was still early, 2018.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. So, yeah, as I said, it was kind of the penny dropped, the seed was planted, and I said, okay, so I need to do something about this. But at the time, I wasn't in a position to like, dedicate time to learning this thing. So, because of course, like it's marketed as, you can build things in 5 minutes, etc. And in some tools you can, but
Yeah,
like it's not as easy as like people say it is, and you still have to learn it. So
true.
it's still a skill to be learned. So I didn't have the time at that point to like go all in on it. So it kind of just sort of festered away in my mind, thinking, oh gosh, I need to get on this. Like probably 6 months later, in sort of actually early 2020, so early of last year, that was when I was starting to get this itch of like, I need to start using this now. I'm getting a few ideas in my mind, and I really need to start leveraging this tech that's kind of there, but is still quite unknown. So uh, that was coming into February 2020, just as like lockdown was emerging across the world, I guess. And that was for me like the optimal time. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, we've got loads of time on our hands now. Like, what else are we meant to do apart from like read books and I don't know, like go through online courses and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of when I realized that was the moment to start learning to no code.
All right.
Yeah.
And this turned into 100 days of no code. So did the challenge start for yourself?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
you
Yeah.
did it
Exactly.
first.
Yeah. So I had been like aware of the 100 days of code challenge. So when I had like just flirted with the idea of learning to code. I'd looked around and think, okay, there's some cool initiatives going on. 100 days of code sounds a bit extreme, but it's probably what I need to like get over the line. So I'll probably do that if ever I need to learn code. But having that in my mind and knowing that I wanted to learn to no code and having lots of time on my hands at that point in time. So last year in lockdown, I sort of put two and two together and it was like, hang on a minute, like there needs to be 100 days of no code. And yeah, I was the first person to just like announce on Twitter that I was going to do it. Simply put out a landing page just saying, if anyone wants to join me, like please do. It's a fun thing we're doing, and the more of us that are doing it at the same time, the easier it will be. That was it. I captured a few emails and started sending out a small newsletter, just like amalgamating like the highlight tweets or updates from that week on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that was it. But yeah, I was kind of the first to start it, and Sharaf, who you've also had on this podcast, was also the first person that I roped into doing it. So I said, look, I'm going to need someone to like say that they're doing it with me, otherwise I'm going to look like a real like weirdo. Okay. So I was just like, can you like do this or like say that you're doing this with me? Yeah, just to like soften the blow when like no one likes this on Twitter.
How did that turn out? I mean, it turned out pretty good.
Well, exactly, yeah. Like I went in with like super low expectations, and to be honest, like all it ever was just a way for me to like to learn how to know code. So like any like grandiose idea of turning 100 days into something more wasn't there at that point. It was just me laying out 100 days to learn this new skill so I could create, I don't know, like random ideas that I had that weren't 100 days of no code. 100 days of no code was just a means for me to get somewhere else at that point in time.
What did you build in your first 100 days?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I built a so I went kind of deep in Bubble, which was a little bit of a mistake. I would not recommend any beginner to go straight in there first. I found it really tough, and it kind of was a painful first 50 60 days, if not more. And if I didn't probably have that real eagerness to learn, I probably would have been knocked off the bandwagon before I really got started, because it was just like, oh, actually, this isn't that easy. I've been told a lie, like this is actually really hard. But
it doesn't take 5 minutes to build whatever you need.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't. But what I built in my 100 days was first it was like a positive story tracker. So in my local area or near me is a place called Camden in London, and
love that place, by the way.
Yeah, I think yeah, no, it's good. It's it's a fun place to be in London, and it's basically I just wanted to a project for me to work on, but also quite a nice thing was to actually, instead of all the negative like cycle of news that was happening at that point in time, it was I mean, if you tuned into the news at that point in time, it was just awful, and it still is. But just to like throw something different into that news cycle, I wanted to capture like the positive stories that are coming out from the COVID like response. So seeing what people were doing, like helping their neighbors, their nans, all that kind of good feeling stories into one place. So the site, it was super simple on Bubble, where you could log in, or you could literally look at the site, see a map with little pins on it, and then hover over those pins and see a positive story in your local area. So it's super simple, but like was just quite a nice thing to do, and we got a few crowdsourced stories in, and it didn't go big. It didn't wasn't a massive thing, but it was just a nice little place or safe haven that people could come just for a sprinkle of positivity, if you like.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Honestly, that's amazing. I would have loved to see that. I mean, that time, like you said, it was so toxic. The news. I mean, the news is
Exactly.
always toxic. Like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
never watch it, but because it was this new thing, I wanted to see like what the hell is Corona, you know?
yeah.
And yeah, I got so paranoid. I started feeling
Yes.
sick when I'm not sick. You know, like
Yes.
I'm like, do I
Yeah.
have an itchy throat? Oh my god,
Yeah.
it was so bad. And
Mm,
yeah, nah, that's actually amazing. Okay, so you built this
mm,
website,
mm,
positive news. I love, by the way, the whole principle of
mm.
positive news. I wish there's more positive news channels, just saying the good stuff that are happening in the world. And
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
where do you go from there? Because
Sure.
I'm gonna tell you what I see and
Yes, please.
what people are saying, like from our perspective on 100 days of no code.
That'd be great
Uh,
because I think I messaged you before. Like I've kind of become when you're in it, you come blind to it. So I don't really know like what the perception is externally. So I'd love your like thoughts and yeah, just what it looks like from the outside looking in.
yeah, I remember when we talked, which was probably a year ago, and I was interested by like no code. Just when I heard it, I'm like, this sounds cool. All right, you're doing it, and we got on a call, and you explained to me what was happening. And since then, you know, I got so busy with work, I didn't even have time to learn anything on no code.
Mm,
Then after that, I started like more and more. I'm seeing people like posting. Today is like day one of 100 days of no code. Day 100, you know, day 50, and
yeah.
people are posting what they're doing, and I started seeing like this growth of the community, and people are talking about it. And then I saw you on like a few Zoom calls with some pretty cool people on from Twitter or tech world. So I've seen this growth from our side, and I saw a community getting built. And as we saw in the past year, communities, you know, it's the thing. Like everybody wants to have a community. Companies are turning into communities to build their
Mm,
brand because
yeah.
they realize that okay, this is the new thing. Like
Yeah.
I forgot what's the name of HubSpot.
Mm,
Like HubSpot just bought my first million podcast, and they bought
yes.
the Hustle,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
has an extremely strong community. I'm part of it too. The Hustle community. It's an amazing community, and they just
Mm,
bought it, and they're doing something completely different. But
yeah.
they see the power of that community. And then I think Stripe, right? Was it Stripe that
Mm,
bought? I
indie
forgot who they
hackers.
bought. Yeah, Stripe bought indie hackers. I mean,
Yeah.
Stripe is fintech.
Yeah.
They're buying indie hackers. So
Yeah.
everybody's seeing the power of of a community. And
Yeah.
I got this question for you also from Twitter, from people saying, "How do you look at this community? Right? How did you grow it? How did you nurture it? What do you think is the next step for you within
Of
that?"
course, yeah, no, and thanks for the yeah the kind words, and it's always nice to hear that externally it sort of it feels like it's moving as well. Because when you're in the weeds, it just you're always kind of just moving on to the next thing and don't really have a chance to reflect and sort of see where it's gone or going. So I appreciate that sort of perspective, firstly. But in terms of yeah, how it really started. It was principally like a challenge at first. It was a fun little 100 days of no code hashtag when it started. So as a means for people to just learn every day in micro bite-sized chunks. And I think in that like doing that itself is hard and tough thing to do 100 days. Like it's not like a walk in the park. Like
Yeah.
it's a bit of a um head down, like uncomfortable thing to do. So I think in that like hardship comes this need for like support and positivity and a sense of camaraderie amongst people that are also doing that same thing. So probably a couple of months after I'd launched the actual challenge itself, I kind of thought, hang on a minute, this is perfect, or needs to be. There's a necessity for bringing the people that are doing this challenge together. So that's kind of where like I was like, oh, okay, like maybe this should be a challenge and a community.
For sure.
And 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 at the time, yeah, community was all the hype, and it still is, of course. But that word was swirling around on Twitter, and I was thinking, hang on a minute, maybe this is a community, maybe this should be a community, and it made a lot of sense to be a community. So that was kind of where the seed was planted for me. And then the first step I did really to coalesce like the people doing it, and at that time there wasn't many, but bringing them into one space was simply creating a Slack channel, a Slack group. So keeping it super lean, and it still is in a Slack group. There's no fancy software, there's not a custom built thing, it's just in Slack. So I think keeping it lean, keeping organic in that first period was really important, and not over engineering anything. It was just simply me providing a space for others to connect on the same journey. That was it. Nothing more. There's no bells and whistles going on here. And I think that was what I said to you when we had our chat. I was just like if you need that sense of accountability and that connection, you know, this is something for you, and if you don't, then you can just plow through the 100 days and learn a skill. So so that's kind of how it really begun, and then my first sort of actions to get it moving.
Okay. And do most people sign up to be, just go through the 100 days ASAP, or is it the community part is helpful, like the accountability part is helpful? How do you see it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think some people have, and credit to them, I wouldn't be able to, but some people have just blasted through 100 days flat, and I'm just looking and thinking, wow, like that's that's some impressive stuff. There's impressive like commitment there, like, and self-discipline. Like I couldn't do
Yeah,
that. But others, most of us, need that yeah, just accountability to get over the line. And I think, yeah, there's one thing around creating a system for people to use. So 100 days, 30 minutes of learning a day. So there's a system there, but there
yeah,
also needs to be something that drives that momentum and keeps you turning up every day. And that's where the community comes in. So it's kind of system and community, and those two things are quite powerful. One, like having them on their own is great, but having that momentum that's achieved by combining them, I think is more powerful.
for sure. I mean, I the accountability part is just amazing. I usually try to find an accountability partner for anything I'm trying to do.
Yes.
If it's not one, at least a group of people, because you're bound to fall off the wagon. It's just like anything. If you go to the gym with a buddy, they will,
Yeah,
you will push each other. If you go alone,
exactly.
90% of the people just quit after a few weeks.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah, accountability is honestly like major, major, major important in anything
Big
that you're
time.
trying to do. Um,
Big time.
do you feel a lot of people are struggling with the self doubt of that part? Because okay, now I don't know how to code, and I'm going into this no code, low code environment, and I need to start pushing out products, and there's this community and everybody's watching and all of that. And is that, do you feel a lot of people have like this problem with, you know, how do I say it? they're having this problem with they're self-doubting themselves. So they're having this small voice, saying, "Ah, I don't know, you're not good enough. I mean, this person built, a full database of, good news, and now it's showing on a map, and I have to do something like that." And there's this struggle, because this is the biggest part that most people struggle with. You just keep comparing yourself to others. The self doubt.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it, and it's just the talk in the head. Like, how do you
Yeah,
experience that yourself and the community too?
I think that's such a good point to bring up. It really is, and it's not probably spoken about enough. I think because we're kind of um, trained to think or believe that coders are the ones that bring ideas to life and build software. I think for a lot of people that flip in the script of, oh, now I'm the person that can actually create this. Like it's kind of almost too good to be true, or too good to really think that you can actually be that person that can bring your ideas to life as well. And I know, some people in the space come into it at very different levels, and for people that come in at the real like lower echelons of the technical spectrum, it's tough. One, because as we've said before, it is a tough skill to learn. It's still a skill to learn. But two, there is that technical element to it. You have to learn how to still think like a programmer in some sense. You're still configuring logic flows and workflows. If this, then that, and then that, and kind of setting conditions on that. So it requires a certain way of thinking that you've probably not used to before, because we've never been no like people that can't code have never really been builders before. So now becoming a builder, there's a lot to think about: the design, the user experience, the way things are used by the end user. It just, all these things, like, it's not something we're used to. So um for me, that was definitely the case, and still is, that sense of being an imposter. Like, can I actually build this super cool idea I've got in my head? Probably I can, but like, it's not like my identity yet, or like I've not fully embraced that like builder identity. And I think that is a lot, for the same for a lot of people.
Definitely. I mean, I love that you're saying that, because I hope when people are listening, they can see that everybody has this same thing. Everybody has the same struggle. Everybody feels the imposter syndrome,
Yeah,
and it's a good thing. Like, embrace. I
exactly.
think we should embrace it. We should learn to embrace the imposter syndrome. And I always like tell my friends when we're talking, or whoever I meet, like, who am I to do this? There's a lot of people that are better than me. They're experienced in this field. Any
Mm.
of that. I'm like, the moment you feel this, know that you're onto something great.
Yes.
Do that association. Like, the moment you start doubting yourself, associate it with, this is good. Like, my
Yeah.
brain doesn't want me to do it because this is good.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
build that
Exactly.
association.
Exactly. And it's that classic phrase, isn't it? Just sort of being like in and around people that are like better than you, is just like, is always going to be a good thing. And yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Definitely. I want to see, what cool stuff did you see coming out of the no code movement? So, like, what cool products or things that you were impressed by, things we should check out, to get some inspiration. What are some of the cool stuff that?
Wow, that is seriously tough. That is, I when you said, I was like drawing a blank, thinking, oh my gosh, I've seen so many cool projects. They kind of blur into one, but like, let me have a think. So I think that I mean, to hit on a few things that you can do with no code and some categories of like build, like, and then maybe when, as I'm talking about those categories, hopefully I think of one,
All right,
like
let's
a
do it.
specific project. But basically, like, some common things, when you're getting started, a landing page. Like that's, easiest thing you can do, a landing page with a sign up form. Boom. You can get your idea out there, validate it. Brilliant. Then you're kind of moving into like a directory. So you want to display some information in a list that's filterable. Then you're kind of moving up that spectrum a bit, and you're giving people like specific relevant information that's filterable and easy to use and find and sift through. So that's a project that I see a lot. And then maybe a marketplace. So that's another one that you can build in a super intuitive tool like Softer, or you can make in a really custom way in Bubble. And then you've got people that are creating like custom bespoke software, so like micro SaaS businesses off the back of no code. And that, I think that's where it gets really, really exciting. So I think the other things are exciting, and then that kind of takes it to a new level. So yesterday, so here I've got a project in mind. So yesterday I saw a demo of what's called Community Copilot by
Okay.
Kieran Ball, who's in the space, and he has essentially built an interface in Bubble that allows community managers like myself to manage their community in a CRM like way, but scale the intimacy of interactions and connections, etc., as you grow. So it's fine, you can know a lot about your community if it's 50 to 100 members, but then when you're kind of scaling to 1,000, to have like one dashboard where you can see all your members bucketed by their engagement levels, and then an ability to literally go into each member and then message them straight to Slack or their email, is really like useful as a community manager. And that's something you can do all in Bubble, and was created in Bubble. But to give you more of an idea of it, it's probably best to go and check it out on his site. But yeah, it's
What is
Kieran
it
Ball.
called again?
It's called Community Copilot, and
Community
I'll drop you the link so you can share in the show notes.
Amazing. Wow. That's actually pretty cool.
I'm definitely going to use it. I am
Yeah.
using it currently. Yeah.
Is there any other alternatives?
I think that there are. I mean, there's different versions of it, but this is like sort of definitely one of the first of its like kind in the community management space. So that's what really excites me about it.
Amazing. And it's built all no code.
Yeah, so it's built in Bubble, and yeah, it's just a really good uh, showcase of what you can do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I want the same thing for my podcast.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Like,
Got you. Yeah.
I would love to get like proper analytics on who's listening, where are they, who are they, all of that, just to see. I don't
Yeah.
need names, just
Sure.
who are the people. Like the analytics for podcasts are horrible.
Really,
Extremely
I'd really
bad.
do.
I would have like an episode with like 500 listeners or so, and like this is on one dashboard, and then if I
Sure.
open Spotify's analytics, it's completely different because it's for Spotify only. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I go
Okay.
to Google Podcasts and I see how many people listen there. And then I go to Apple Podcast and I see how many people listen there. And all of them are in beta. Like they would see the
Okay.
analytics in beta.
Oh gosh.
And then I add up the numbers and then I compare to the one dashboard that has everything. They're completely different. Like the numbers are so messed up. I have no idea who's listening, where they are.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah,
That's awful.
honestly, like I think if someone's listening and interested in podcasts, please make an analytics tool.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe
it's
that's
really
your
a
next
struggle.
project. Yeah, I think that's a super cool project to work on it. I mean, obviously, like we talk about community blowing up, like podcasting has been feels like it's just been blowing up for years now, but it's just growing and growing and growing. So like, yeah, if someone's listening, make that thing. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
True. I mean, yes, podcasts, communities, everything is kind of like just blowing out of proportion right now. Podcasts, like I was looking at stats the other day, and there's 1.5 million active podcasts in the world.
Wow.
1.5 million compared to 550 million blogs, compared
Jeez.
to 70 million active YouTube channels.
Wow. So it's super early still.
Still super early. I was shocked. I thought there's way more. And I'm like, because if you open any
Yeah.
podcast app, you just keep going. It's endless. But
Yeah.
it's not a lot. 1.5
Wow.
million.
Wow. Sorry, I'm just intrigued. How do you see Clubhouse sort of changing the podcast landscape? If is that a question, like, is that a thing? Is it not? So yeah, I'm kind of flipping the tables here, but just intrigued on your perspective. Yeah, on that.
Yeah. I've been on Clubhouse for a year,
Okay.
but I'm not a big fan, honestly. Like,
Okay.
I think the hype is way too big on it. Like,
Interesting.
it's such
Yeah.
a huge, for me, it's a huge waste of time. If I open any chat room that I
Yeah.
need to get on, it's like 3-4 hours gone immediately. And
Yeah.
it's just because it's kind of live and people are talking about a certain topic, and then something comes up, and we go on another topic, and then oh
Mm.
no, let's jump back. Let's jump back and let's get back to the topic, and then someone has a question, and then they ask a question, and then
Got you.
it's chaotic. And even the experience itself, I find it a bit mediocre in a
Okay.
way. Like, I
Mm.
can't find the cool rooms that I'm interested in.
Mm.
um I don't know, navigating through the rooms is just every time I get
Okay.
rooms that have zero associations to what I like just zero,
Okay. Okay.
no correlation to what I like.
Wow.
So it doesn't,
Wow.
like,
Sort
I
of
don't build the feed
filter.
for me properly, I think. But
Mm.
Twitter Spaces,
Yeah.
I'm on
No,
that.
so that's good, is it? You look happy with that? Yeah.
Twitter Spaces, I'm happy with,
Okay.
because Twitter Spaces is already built for me, right? Like,
Mm.
this is the amount of people I follow. If any of those people that I like following
Yeah.
open a Twitter space, then I know, okay, this is going to be a good convo for the specific topic they're talking about,
Got you.
which
Got you.
usually on Twitter, every person kind of has a thing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
like, they have this
Yeah.
one thing where they talk about other stuff.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I've been on
Yeah.
like a few Twitter space rooms, and they were really good. Honestly, they were really good, clean, didn't take too much. Like, it was 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Okay.
People were listening, and yeah, they finished through quick, easy, fast, like a podcast, literally.
Yeah.
You just listen to it and you're out. But I don't know, I feel like on Clubhouse was just a bit too chaotic. That's what I feel.
Mm.
What do you
No,
think?
interesting. No, I don't really have a perspective, because I've not got either. So yeah, which is probably a good thing, just for productivity.
For
But
sure.
I spend way too much time on Twitter, as you can probably tell already. So it's exciting, but also like, oh, that could be, yeah, another few hours out of my week gone that I don't have. So yeah,
True.
but no, it's interesting. Yeah.
What do you think of the Twitter environment? Like, what is happening there? I sometimes, like, I leave for a few days or like a week or two, because I feel it gets a bit too toxic. Let me explain why.
Please. Mm.
Uh, there's a lot of people just talking about how to build your Twitter following, and
Yeah.
and just, I feel like they're mostly clickbaits. Just everybody's, this is how you get more followers. This is how you get more followers. You need to retweet this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. And I mean, you can see some of them they keep popping up on my feed, and
Mm,
I'm actually seeing like insane growth, like going
mm,
from 200 followers to like 10K in like a few
mm.
months.
Yeah.
And pretty cool. Okay. Um, but I go through their content
Mm.
and I don't see anything valuable there. I
Yeah.
just see it's kind of, yeah, Chamath said something and then they took it and then reworded it and then wrote it again and then they posted it and, thanks for
Great.
inspiring me or something like that. I don't know.
Mm.
Or, tagging a hell of a lot of people that have a lot of followers and then, one of them or two
Mm.
of them give you a like or a retweet and then, boom, that tweet's like went through the roof and then people follow you. I feel like there's this a bit of a system like that
Yeah.
is kind of bullshitty,
Yeah.
and sometimes
Yeah.
I feel it's too toxic, and
Mm.
I need a break because
Yeah.
like this is not what I'm interested in. If
No.
I'm on Twitter, and I really enjoy Twitter because there's a lot of valuable info there.
Mm.
Those bullshitty things keep coming up, and
Yeah.
sometimes they take
Mm.
over my feed, and I need a break. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, no, I can't deal with it. Like honestly, what do you think about this like whole complex that's happening there? Because
Yeah.
it cannot be only me.
No, no, no. No. It's certainly not. And I think, yeah, you're completely right. Like, there, I think there are people, in the Twitter like ecosystem that are, as you say, there to grow and there to increase their followings. And I think there's that difference between people like playing a very intentional game. So, as you say, doing almost ticking off the list, like making sure they thank everyone, which that'd be fine. Like doing Twitter threads in this very like set format. They may do like an AMA, at some point. Those are all fine, but there's
Yeah.
like I think some people are very intentional about their like growth strategy on Twitter, and are kind of almost ticking off like boxes, and that to me is like inauthentic. And I always think like that I get it, like you want to grow, but also like I don't enjoy that content where I just know that I'm kind of feeding your growth. So like, oh, tag someone. It's like the tag spirals where it's like tag this person, and then it's just like this continuous thing, and that's again absolutely fine. But also, what you're doing there. You're boosting your exposure to more people. And that's again fine. So that's kind of like the more intentional, like playing the game side of Twitter that I'm not so keen on. And then there's the authentic sharing your story, building in public, and being you side of Twitter that I like. And I try to be on that side as much as I can. I've admittedly ticked some of those boxes of the Twitter like growth thing, and I catch myself doing it sometimes and think, oh gosh, like I've fallen into this spiral of like this as you say, almost toxic way of with using Twitter. But I really try and just share what I know, share what I'm picking up along the way, and hope that someone else finds that useful. And go from there really is like the base point. Just share your learning and see if people find that useful, but also pick other people's brains. People, there's a wealth of knowledge on Twitter, and I love nothing more than asking questions. I think those
For
are some of the
sure.
most interesting tweets because you ask a question and then you get a myriad of awesome responses. So that's, yeah, not to go too down that path. That's my kind of like analysis on that really.
For sure, 100%. I agree with what you said. And this actually like started because I always kind of felt it, but I never said anything. It's
Mm,
kind of like, I guess this is how it works there.
mm,
And then a few days ago, I'm pulling up this article.
please, yeah.
Uh, I'm pulling up, and he stated something which was just amazing, honestly. Uh, I'm gonna send it to you just so you can check it out.
Please,
But
yeah. Yeah.
so basically, like what he says, this is funny. He's like, so he talks about Twitter's bullshit industrial complex. Bullshit industrial complex is a pyramid of a group that goes something like this. Group one, people actually shipping ideas, launching businesses, doing creative work, taking risks, and sharing first-hand learning. Group
Mm.
two, people writing about group one in clear, concise, accessible language. Group three, people
Yeah.
aggregating the learnings of group two, passing it off as first-hand wisdom. Group four, group Group 4, people aggregating the learnings of Group 3, believing they are worthy of praise as the people of Group 1. Group 5 plus is just the spiral of going downward.
Yeah, that's very true. That is so good, actually. I need to read that.
Yeah. Lastly, before we end,
Mm,
I like to always leave the audience with something actionable to do. So,
sure.
what can they do? What's the first step they can take towards maybe no code or doing something initial that they can start building with?
Mm, of course, yeah. I mean, one of the pieces of advice I got coming into the space. So I entered the space, yeah, as I said, in February 2020, and the first call I had with anyone in no code, and he was kind enough to give me the time, was with KP, who obviously is sort of obviously a big name in the space and has done some awesome work. And the one piece of advice that kind of stuck with me after that phone call was super simple and kind of probably shaped somewhat the philosophy of 100 days of no code, which is showing up every day. And I know that sounds really vague and like super like unactionable, but I think that the message or the underlying message there is consistency and showing up like almost in your comfort zone every day. So doing something that's working towards like a bigger goal that you have every day, and you're chipping away at that to reach those like compounding effects. And that is like, again, it's just so simple but so powerful. So whatever you're wanting to do, whether that is ship some cool idea you've got in your head or your notebook, the first step you can take to making that reality is you know, creating a system for yourself to show up every day, so that you're not just reliant on willpower, but you're also reliant on a system, and that system hopefully will carry you through to creating that idea that you want to build. So that's kind of my parting advice, yeah, for people to take.
Amazing. Thank you. Where can people find you? And
I
where is your community at?
Yeah, sure. No, so on Twitter, you'll find me at Haining Max. So HAINING Max. So feel free to drop me a message there. My DMs are open, so always happy to chat. And then the community you can find at www.100daysofnocode.com. So pretty simple. But yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, just reach out.
Awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time, Max.
No, of course, yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you.